Hey Marietta, so I'm back again with Women of the Bible. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Her character. She was a virgin from a poor family in an obscure village in Galilee. Her response to Gabriel reveals a young woman of unusual faith and humility. Her unqualified yes to God's plan for her life entails great personal risk and suffering. She must have endured seasons of confusion, fear, and darkness, and the events of her life unfold. She is honored not only as the mother of Jesus, but as his first disciple. Her sorrow to see the son she loved shamed and tortured, left to die like the worst kind of criminal. Her joy to see her child raised from the dead, to have received the Holy Spirit along with Christ's other disciples. Her story, she sat down on a bench and closed her eyes. An old woman saluted against the blue Jerusalem sky. Even in the wood, beneath her concrete images. Though she could no longer recall the exact curl of his smile or the shape of his sleeping face resting next to hers, she could still see the rough brown hands as expertly molding the wood to his purpose. Joseph has been a good carpenter and an even better husband. These days, the memory came unbidden, like a gusty wind carrying her away to other times and places. Some said drowning men see their lives unfold in incredible details just before they die. Age has a similar effect, she thought, except that you could relive your memories with a great deal more leisure. A cool breeze teased at her skirt as she moved across the fields. As she moved across the field, empty buckets swinging from the pole resting against her shoulders. She had hurried. She had hurried to the well in order to return home in plenty of time for her evening meal. The day's chores had made her hungry as a farmhand, but before she could dip the buckets into the well, a stranger approached her from the opposite direction. Even in the dusty light, his clothes shone white as though bleached bright by the strongest of fuller soap. Greetings, he shouted. You who are highly favored, the Lord is with you. No Nazarene, she was sure, will ever dare greet a maiden like that. But with each step, his words grew bolder, now softer, rushing towards her like water plunging over a cliff. Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. You will give birth to a son. He will be called the Son of the Most High. The Holy Spirit will come upon you. Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age. Wave after wave broke over her as she listened to the angel's words. First confusion and fear, then awe and gratitude, and finally a rush of joy and peace. Her whole body, her whole being drenched in light. Then she heard more words, this time cascading from her lips, not his. I am the Lord's servant. May it be to me as you have said. Though the angel departed, Mary's peace remained. The Most High had visited the lowest of his servants and spoken the promise every Jewish woman longed to hear. You will be with child and give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus. The Lord will give him the throne of his father's David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. His kingdom will never end. The moon hung like a smile in the night sky as she lifted the brimming buckets and began walking across the field. As the water swayed and splashed to the rhythm of her movement, she realized she too felt full and satisfied, as though she had just finished a favorite meal. Questions she knew would come with the morning for now. Will come with the morning. For now, it was enough to look up at the stars and know that God was at her work shaping her future. Mama, Mama, he yelled, running towards her, chubby arms flung and beseechingly out, flung out. Jesus was Hold on. Jesus, what is it now, child? She smiled and scooping the little chunky boy into her arms before he could topple over in a usual tangle of arms and legs. But he was all kisses and squealing and nuzzling his curly head against her breast as though to bury herself in the soft, warm flesh. She smiled, she sighed contentedly. How many mothers had she known, but none had described the sheer wonder of a child, the laughter, the constant surprise, the tenderness, not to mention the fear and worry that were always also part of the bargain. But this was no time to entertain such thoughts. The men from the east had recently left. How strange these magi seemed, with their tales of a star that had led them all the way to Bethlehem to search of a new king. They had bowed before her dark-eyed child, laying out their treasures of gold, incense, and mirrors, as though paying homage to royalty. One morning, however, they had packed in haste, saying only that a dream had warned them to return home without reporting news of their successful search to the king. Even the mention of Huron name had filled her with dread. Bethlehem lay just 6 miles of the Jerusalem, dangerously close to the man who had murdered his own children out of jealousy for his throne. How will such a ruler respond to rumors of a child king in Bethlehem? 2 nights ago, Joseph had shaken her awake, shushing her with details of the dream he had just had. Mary, an angel appeared to me. We must leave before sunrise. Huron plans to search for our child and kill him. Now they were on their way to Egypt, reversing the steps of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, who had led her ancestors to freedom so long ago. Mary wondered as they rested if they would ever see their homeland again. Woman, he breathed the word softly, painfully through lips and encrusted it with blood and spittle. His lean arms were flung out on either side of him as though imploring. His wrists were fixed to the wood with rope, his palms pinned with spikes. He looked at her first and then at the young man standing beside her. Here's your son. The word came haughtily. Then the man, he said, here's your mother. She wanted to reach for him with all the might of her love, to bury his sorrows in her breast, to tell him he was the son she needed most. Will not the God who pitied Abraham also pity her? Will he allow her to suffer what even the patriarch had been spared? The sacrifice of her child. All of her life she had loved the God whose angel had spoken to her, calling her blessed among women. But how could a woman whose son was dying on a Roman cross ever call herself blessed? Suddenly her own words came back to her, as though a younger version of herself was whispering them in her ear. I am the Lord's servant. May it be to me as you had said. The midday sky had blackened, but she could still see her son twisted from the cross, his eyes searching hers. Thorns circled his forehead in the shape of a crown, a cruel reminder of the sign the Roman governor had fastened to the wood. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. She thought of the Magi and their priceless gift, the gold and incense, royal treasures that helped them survive their stay in Egypt. She had always wondered about the mirror. Now she knew it was the embalming oil for the king the wise men had come to worship. My God, why have you forsaken me? The cry pierced her like a swarm driven through her chest. The earth spoke violently, and she fell to her knees, barely able to complete the words of Psalms for the man whose son who hung dead on the cross. She started singing. By the time Mary opened her eyes, the setting sun had turned the city into a golden land. She smiled, wiping the tears from her wrinkled face. How true the angel's word has been. No woman from Eve onward had ever been blessed as she, the mother of Messiah, has been. Yes, the past was alive inside her, but it was the future that filled her with joy. Soon she will see her son again, and this time it will be his hands that will wipe away the last of her tears. And I'll be back with the next segment of The Woman of the Bible. Bye, Maria.